All right, good. I got that going. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can
How
you
are
hear me?
you?
All right. I feel kind of weird.
Yeah, me too. Let's be weird together. What's the matter? Like a cold or like
No,
stress?
it's like a queasy, heartburny.
You want to throw up on the air? We could get some Patreon money for that.
No, I would not like to do that. Hey, huh? What the hell is this?
I did a bonus show for MatMed and it ran really long.
Mm-hmm.
So I just finished, like now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I'm like, I just need like 2 minutes. Hey guys, we are live on YouTube and we're live on Twitch. Sorry for the franticness, but it's very last minute, and I did not anticipate this going like this. Paul, you have a defeated look on you.
Yeah, I feel weird.
You want to like, you want to vomit?
No, I'm not going to vomit.
Okay. I'll make it easy for you today. I promise.
Okay.
I won't make you want to throw up any more than you do.
Sure.
Let me tweet this out. Sorry. Okay, that's tweeted. We're live there. We're live there. All right. All right. You ready to start? Or you need a minute?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Sorry for the last minute. I just tweeted this. So let me just retweet on my other one. I'm not as quick as I used to be with this, unfortunately. I used to be a lot quicker. All right. We're good to go. And we'll start now. What the Tech is brought to you by Rocket Loans, part of the Quicken Loans family of companies. Offers personal loans from $2,000 to $35,000 by visiting rocketloans.com/whatthetech. That's rocketloans.com/whatthetech. TextExpander helps you communicate smarter. Visit textexpander.com/podcast for 20% off your first year.
What's up, Ted?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian, and I'm joined by Mr. the wonderful Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I'm pretty good.
Not good
I'm
today.
not really that good.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Maybe Paul will pass out by the end of the show.
Yeah, maybe. I've been, I don't know. I started using the elliptical in early December, and then after New Year's, I started doing other workouts as well. So I kind of exercise for like an hour every day, and it is the most excruciatingly terrible hour of my life.
Oh my God.
And I think
bad.
it's just getting worse,
How long did you not do it?
I haven't exercised before this, at least for 18 months. I used to play basketball, remember, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to Ireland tomorrow, and I'm getting anxiety over the trip.
Why?
Because it doesn't follow the rules of my travel.
And what are those rules?
I don't fly on the weekends. I don't fly on Fridays. I fly Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I'm not even kidding. Okay. And I'm getting in, and it's a weird overnight flight that I'm doing. I'm leaving here at 6, but I get into Ireland at 5 a.m.
Yeah, that's terrible. I'm surprised it's that late, actually.
Yeah.
But
so
yes, it's what is it, 5-hour time
5
difference
hours.
and 6 whatever hour, 7-hour flight.
Because what is it? It's like 6 something to go, but it's like 8 hours to come back.
Where are you flying out of?
I'm flying out of JFK on a Friday, by the way. On a Friday.
Sure.
I'm very close to canceling the trip. I'm not
Don't do
even.
that.
I'm very close. Like I'm very. I got a bad feeling about it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
maybe the last show I do
sorry.
with you. And
Okay.
then you can say, "Oh my
Jeez.
God, he knew something was going on." No, we do have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll talk about my trip on the bonus show or later on in the show. But there is a lot happening, and I got bombarded with a lot of questions about Microsoft's foldable device,
Yeah.
and I also got a lot of questions about foldable devices for 2019. And if you had spoken to me about a couple months ago and said, "What's the reality that we're going to start seeing a lot of these really nice foldable devices in 2019?" I would have said probably not
Mhm.
2019. But now I'm changing my idea of this, and I think
Mhm.
stuff is going to happen. I think things are changing. What do you think, Paul?
Well, I think people are misinterpreting what they've seen. PC makers and Intel have already shown off prototype designs for foldable PCs, which is basically, well, I mean, it's not too different from, aside from the act of folding a screen. I mean, it's basically like a dual screen thing, is what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's just one surface.
So I do
Um,
want to go into I want to ask you about the Microsoft. I want to start with the Microsoft and then lead into other devices with you.
well, there is no Microsoft device. That's
There
my
is no
point.
Microsoft. Yeah,
No, I mean, in other words, remember when, I don't remember when this was exactly, but it was probably early 2018, Google was rumored to be, and then was later proven to be, adding support for notches to Android, right?
yeah.
And at that time, before then, I know, what's that company's called? Essential shipped one with a tiny notch right in the middle. Um, there was no support in the OS for that, but it didn't matter because it was right in the middle. So
It
that
didn't.
was a
Yeah,
place in the status bar that was usually empty anyway. But a lot of PC makers were looking for a way to do a notch. Sorry, device makers. And Google accommodated them by adding formal support for that to their operating system. And then later, Google shipped its own phone with a notch, with terrible notch, but whatever, a notch. I think that's the way to view what is happening with this Microsoft stuff. So
okay.
we saw a leaked build that supported foldable displays. People got all excited. Microsoft's going to release Andromeda or whatever this thing is called. And they're not. That's not what this is about. It's because we already know, because we've seen them publicly. At least Dell and Intel have shown off these foldable designs. And so it's going to become a formal part of the platform. And any PC maker can ship a device that supports that technology if they want.
Okay, so what we're not talking about and this is where it gets crazy. Because
Yep.
yesterday, yeah, no, the 15th. So that would have been what day? Monday?
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yep.
I started getting messages on Twitter and emails saying, "Hey, are they going to release some sort of foldable gaming device, some tablet, a foldable
Just-
tablet? Is the Surface
okay.
going foldable where you could have the bottom screen be a
Yeah.
touch base, Xbox controller?" And I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And it goes based on one image that somebody put out. That's what it really
Yeah.
is. So this is just
I,
it's not necessarily Microsoft putting out a foldable device. It's the OEMs looking into foldable devices, and Microsoft needs to support Windows.
yeah.
Windows needs to support this. That's what it
No,
is.
that doesn't mean that Microsoft won't do one as well at some point. I don't know anything about that, but that could certainly happen. It probably will. Microsoft has wanted to do a small note-taking type device for a long time. Whatever. But
The Courier.
I don't. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not sure honestly what the real world advantages of any of this stuff is. I aside from the, oh, it's cool new technology kind of factor. Like, but real world, like, what's the point? I'm not
I
really sure I
guess
see the point of it.
I guess the point would be, and I'll tell you one place that it would do well is
Mhm.
smartwatches.
Well, right, but I mean,
Right.
okay.
A
What do you
foldable.
mean
It
by
would
that?
be. It would kind of become that prototype spec Apple Watch where it's this beautiful, ring almost, a bracelet that you put
Yeah.
on, and it's this curved display. That I could see, but I mean,
Well,
how
okay,
much
so
how much small do we want our laptop to be? How much of an
yeah,
inconvenience is our
the
laptop?
problem is the Microsoft device will essentially be a computer, like a PC,
Hmm.
right? So when we see things like Samsung is talking about doing a full, a foldable screen, and so when you're kind of using it normally, it looks like and acts like a smartphone. And then when you open it up, it gets more screen real estate. And that might be nice for all kinds of things, chatting with people on video or playing games or watching movies on a plane or what you can kind of imagine. Like it, we as an industry, for some reason, have been semi obsessed by this notion of consolidating devices. Like, how much better would it be? I carry most people don't actually do this, but I carry a phone, a tablet, and a laptop. So what if I could combine two of those things into one thing
Sure.
and then I had less to carry. And that's kind of been the dream for a while. And for some people that works. There are people who can get work done on an iPad, for example, don't need to carry a laptop. That's a huge weight savings. It's a nice battery life thing. There's good reasons for it if you can make it work. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but I've tested all of this stuff. I've tried this in various configurations, and I sort of subscribe to the, right tool for the job philosophy. I mean, when I do travel, carrying a phone, a small iPad, and a very thin and light laptop too, by the way, is not a problem, you know.
Yeah.
And I would rather have all three. They each serve a purpose for me,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I kind of like having all three also. I want to continue this, obviously, because there's a lot of questions that people are asking. Have you heard anything uh, from CES? Anything that stood out to you from this, latest?
From this perspective,
Yeah,
no. I mean, all the PC stuff that was announced at CES is, traditional expected form factors, expected upgrades of existing PCs to new versions, adopting the new chipset versions. There, I don't recall. Let me just think about that. I don't recall anything particularly innovative or new in the PC space at CES, but that I don't know. That may make sense, right? For whatever reason, PC makers do release or announce new product there, but I don't know that CES has ever been a time frame for that kind of stuff.
mm. I think at one
Um,
point the anticipation of devices and products being around announced around the time of CES was really
yeah.
high, but now, I mean, I was very surprised at the lack of groundbreaking announcements that we saw this year at CES, and it seems like it gets less and less and less every year.
Well, yeah. I mean, CES has turned into a TV and car show in many ways, and because that's where consumer technology has moved. Um, and I don't know, things to me like phones almost make more sense at CES, so they don't see a lot of that either. Um, the digital assistants were kind of a big deal, ambient computing, especially the Amazon and Google entries were
It's
very
an
prominent at CES.
An Alexa toilet.
Yeah, sure.
That
Um,
that's really what it is.
oh, but that's I don't know. It's even. I think the thing about CES is that it really is about the future, and in some ways, it's this year's future, like stuff that might come out in September or October, or whatever. But it's not really so much about established technologies, so even in things like televisions, for example, you're not going to see wall after wall after wall of standard 4K HDR TVs, right? You're going to see QLED and 8K, and it's always about the next thing. And I think first of all, the mobile space, obviously they have their own show. Mobile World Congress is happening next month in Barcelona.
Which that'll be
Um,
the big one for phones. Yeah.
Yeah, and other companies like Apple and Samsung have their own events, of course, and they do them on whatever schedule they want to do them. And then on the PC market in particular, CS is one of the two big times for sure. Um, there's some education related stuff that will be happening actually next week, which is minor for most people, but is big for education. And then there's, I think is it called IDF, the show that's in
Yes.
Berlin, that's
Yeah.
in late
IBF.
August, I think.
IBF.
Now that one, yeah, that sounds wrong for some reason. Well, whatever it's called,
The
that show, IF, oh,
the
IFA,
IFB, IFA, the
IF,
International
yeah,
Bodybuilding Federation. Is that what you're talking about,
yeah,
Paul?
yeah. You're right. I always it's not, yeah, it's not the World Wildlife
Yeah,
Federation.
yeah, yeah.
So that show, in many ways, is a better bellwether of where PCs are going because CS it tends to be evolutionary stuff, and the fall show tends to be more about like, okay, Intel just came out with a new chipset, or now we can get 5G in PCs, and like that's when that will happen. It's notable to me that there were no Snapdragon announcements at all at CES for PCs, right?
Yeah.
No other PC companies adopted the 850. No one said anything about 8CX support, um, possibly because that's going to happen much later in the year, and IFA will be a better place for that. But they're announcing computers now that won't ship until later in the year anyway. I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's just the way CES shakes out. There are a lot of announcements, but they're not a lot of it like what I would call
Groundbreaking at the
real,
moment.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I do want to continue this, and I had a couple questions about Intel because they had an announcement. But before we continue, I want to welcome a new sponsor to the show, and that's Rocket Loans. Listen, the holidays are over. We're in middle of January, and a lot of people are looking to pay off their holiday credit card bills and or purchase furniture for their new home, or they're making updates to their existing home. Rocket Loans, part of the Quicken Loans family of companies, offers personal loans from $2,000 to $35,000. So depending on what you need, it could be a small purchase or it could be a bigger purchase. They offer small personal loans for you by visiting rocketloans.com/whatthetech. That's rocketloans.com/whatthetech. You can check out your offers at any time without harming your credit score, which is actually a huge help because there are other places that you go, and the second that you start looking to see what offer is for you, it's on your credit score. This does not impact your credit score. With Rocket Loans' simple, rocket-fast online process, you can combine your credit card bills into one single fixed monthly payment with no prepayment penalties and fixed rates. This is wonderful. Guys, go check it out. rocketloans.com/whatthetech. That's rocketloans.com/whatthetech. I want to thank them and I want to welcome them for supporting the show. This is I found out about them because a friend of mine messaged me and said, "Hey, you should talk to these guys because I just got a loan from them," and he said it was an easy process, which is great. Rocketloans.com/whatthetech. So, Paul, Intel had an announcement. Now, this was interesting, right? Because I did not anticipate Intel to have an announcement about architecture of their future chipsets at CES.
Sure.
We haven't seen them do something like this in a while. And they gave us a glimpse at Ice Lake, which is their future chipset line, where it's going to give you the ability to adopt thinner tablets and phones, 10 hours of battery life, and things like that. What did you think of this? Did you follow the Lakefield and the Ice Lake stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is their 10 nanometer lineup, right?
Right. So 4 years late.
Barely done.
Well, yeah. I mean, and we'll see if they actually hit the schedule. So that's going to make the year starting in September or so very interesting, right? When we talked about the IFA show, the announcements there are the big announcements are going to be Ice Lake based PCs, as well as Snapdragon 8CX based PCs, right? So that's going to be big, where this CES was not particularly big. Yeah, so Ice Lake, I feel like we've been sort of saying this for a while, but whether you're talking about like Atom chips or Core M chips back in the day, or M series chips more recently, or Y series chips like we've seen in the new MacBook Air, this might be the chipset family, the generation or whatever of Intel chipsets that finally puts that stuff over the top, right? From
Yeah.
a performance perspective. So that's actually really important. When you look at a device like Surface Go, which is kind of a neat little tablet in many ways, it's hamstrung by, well, bad battery life for one thing, and then terrible performance because of the Pentium Gold processor. And that's kind of a 1-2 punch, that kind of puts it under, in my opinion. But if this thing was based on a next generation Ice Lake processor, right, you could retain that small form factor. You'd have more room for battery, which would help, and then the performance will be better. And so we'll see, and this is the dream.
I'm a little concerned because they had such trouble with this 10 nanometer infrastructure for the last. I mean, you're right. 4 years ago they were talking about this, and we're here now, and they kind of had to do it because
they promised it. They announced they were going to ship it.
Yeah,
I think it was. I don't remember the processor family name, but
well, and then they also gave us Project Athena. which is interesting, and I
Right.
guess it kind of goes hand in hand. It was defined as a class of advanced laptops.
Yep.
What can you go into? Obviously, this is going to support AI and 5G, but other than that,
Yeah.
how did they
Well, here,
define
yeah.
this? Is this some sort of is this their certification process for like HP and Dell and all the other OEMs?
Um, Intel does this kind of thing, right? So they define a thing, right? They'll say this is what an ultrabook is. They've literally done this. It has to be X, millimeters thin. It has to blah blah blah, whatever the things are. And so you either make a machine that is an ultrabook or you don't. And if it doesn't meet the specs, you have to call it something else. It's a laptop, whatever. I don't understand the origin of this one exactly, but go back in time about a year. I don't remember exactly, but let's say a year and a half ago, Microsoft announced something called the Always Connected PC initiative. And an always connected PC could have an Intel or Qualcomm chipset, and it could have it has to have some kind of LTE modem built into it, right? So that or at least SIM card capability, preferably an eSIM. And then when you have this thing, you qualify for this kind of logo. You have an always connected PC, and it's a thing, right? And so fine. So
Yeah,
Microsoft made some kind of a spec. It's semi-official, whatever. What was goofy about that was Intel at the same time came out with something called the Always Connected PC, which sounds like exactly the same thing because it is, except the way Intel spelt it was always dash connected, and Microsoft had a space between always and connected. So, but describing exactly the same thing. In Intel's version of the spec, it will always be an Intel chipset, like a Core, whatever, or a Y series, whatever it is. It will have an Intel modem, right? Whereas in Microsoft's view of the world, you could have a Qualcomm modem in an Intel-based computer. You could have a Qualcomm modem in a Qualcomm-based computer. They don't really care. It's a little more agnostic. So the thing you're describing, this project Athena, is version 2 of this. It's Intel's version of the always connected PC, but upgraded to include 5G networking now, which is coming this year apparently, and also some kind of unknown AI engine stuff in their chipsets, whatever that is.
yeah,
That's all it is. And so
yeah.
Microsoft has signed on for this. They're part of it. They're in the big list of logos, and most of the world's biggest PC makers are involved in this. And what this means is that Microsoft and real PC makers are going to ship PCs in the coming year or year and a half, whatever it is, that in many cases will have Ice Lake chipsets and will have integrated 5G capabilities, either via a SIM card slot or an integrated eSIM component or whatever.
So this is
That's all.
this leads into the next topic I want to talk about, and that's 5G in 2019.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting because we're going to see what phones support 5G going forward. Is the iPhone going to go to 5G?
Yeah.
Is Samsung's lineup going to go to 5G? And who actually supporting 5G? Because Verizon has a press release that went out, and they were taking hits at AT&T because they're saying
Sure.
when we talk about 5G, we really mean 5G. Um, for me, I mean, to be honest,
AT&T
I'm in the
is
New York
doing it
market.
wrong.
Yeah, AT&T is
Yeah.
doing it wrong, but I'm in the New York market, so we have phenomenal. Like with 4G, I'm getting
Yeah.
120
You'll be the first to
megabits.
get
I'll
actual
be the first to
5G
get it.
for sure.
But
Yep.
it's not necessarily about speed also. It's more about latency and connectivity with this 5G. It's
It's
the
the
whole
whole thing
thing.
because there are different ways to deliver 5G, and some of them are very good for what you're describing, the strength of connectivity aspect of it, and then there's another way of delivering 5G that's actually kind of lousy at that. But we're going to have a mix of all different things, and 5G is going to be spotty in 2019 for sure, and in some cases, like in AT&T's, it's just going to be fake, and so I think they're calling it 5GE, which is their version of HSPA, sorry, for 5G, meaning it's really 4G, but we're going to
Plus.
call it 5G for whatever reason.
So why
Um,
are they doing that's fake? Explain it because I haven't followed exactly what AT&T
why
is
are they
doing.
doing it?
No. What makes it not necessarily 5G?
Because 5G is a spec, and the 5G spec says that you can consistently deliver certain speeds, among other things, and this thing doesn't do it. And
Mm.
so I think what AT&T is doing is building out their network to support true 5G, and this thing offers some of the advantages of 5G, but it doesn't offer those incredibly fast connection speeds. It's like, like I said, HSPA. I mean, you could have called it 3G plus. You could have called it. Well, that's all you could have called it. That's all it was. It wasn't really
Yeah.
4G, but it was sort of 4G. Um, Look, I mean, every step forward is a step forward. That's fine. I mean, but the problem is this kind of thing confuses the market, and people,
Big time.
normal people, don't understand it. They think they're getting something they're not. To me, the promise of 5G is something that's not going to be realized for a couple of years, right? So 5G needs to be pervasively accessible, not just in New York City, but in rural Pennsylvania or in wherever, in some other country, in some other part of the world, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to take time. It's just like connectivity today. In some places, it's terrible. In some places, it's great. Um, but it's the way that Qualcomm described it, and I love this description because it kind of opens the door to a future that I don't think many people have really considered, which is the if when 5G reaches its actual potential, you will be able to access files in the cloud faster than you can on local storage. And that's when the cloud computing dream becomes a reality, right? And so when people like I take my kids on vacation, it's like you should download some movies to your iPad or your iPhone or something before we leave so you can watch them on the plane just in case. You never know what's going to happen. And they do or they don't. And the nice thing about 5G is you could be standing in line to check in at the plane waiting for them to take your ticket, and you could go onto your phone or device, find the thing you want to download it, hand the person your ticket, and in that time frame, that movie downloaded to your phone,
Mm.
and you're on the plane, and off you go, and you're watching a movie that you just
Yeah.
downloaded. It's that level of speed. If you ever you must do this kind of stuff a lot because you do a lot of video work, but if I transfer files between PCs, which I do a lot, or from a PC to a NAS over like Wi-Fi, videos take forever
Yeah, yeah,
to
sure.
transfer,
Especially, like right now we're recording this. This video is going to be probably about 15 gigs. And then
Yeah,
we got to
imagine.
transcode it and bring it down and make it, usable for most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, to do it over the network, it takes a while.
Yeah, so if you wanna take that thing onto a laptop and bring it on your flight to Ireland or whatever, you certainly have the time to edit some video. It's a miserable process. It's gonna take a while,
Yeah.
It's gonna take a while.
Um, which I want to talk to you about Ireland actually at the end of the show.
Yeah, okay.
I have so many questions for you because I have not done this flight in a long time, and the last time I flew overseas was pre-internet on phones.
Oh.
On planes, I apologize. Pre-internet, well, on phones and planes. So
You've already told me. Are you flying you're flying on Aer Lingus,
Aer Lingus, yeah.
and have you found out what they offer for Wi-Fi?
I have not. I have not even looked.
They may not. I mean,
It's over the Atlantic. So, I mean, I thought you don't have internet over the ocean.
no, you can get internet on. Yeah.
Well, that'll change my life if that's the case. So, but I do want to talk.
I actually like not being online when I'm on a plane, but
No, I like to be connected to everything, Paul. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what Paul's tweeting at 12 o'clock at night.
I was going to say at the time you're flying, I'm going to be asleep. So,
I do want to talk about that. But here's a question for you. And I think this is the benefit of 5G. And when 4G I mean, it's crazy we've been doing the show for so long that 4G was just happening when we had started doing this. Our big bet was companies like Verizon, with their Fios and Optimum and all the cable providers are going to slowly abandon cable and move over to this wireless technology that will be 4G. And unfortunately, we were still in this weird capped era where with data caps and and throttling and all this stuff that was going on and punishing you if you use too much. Where now with 5G, that discussion is not necessarily happening as much. And the outlook is that this may be the future of at-home internet, right? Because if you're the pipe provider, isn't it easier to maintain wireless than it is to maintain wires going into people's homes that could be 30, 40, 50 years old, depending on where you are?
It's a lot less expensive too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why there are many well-publicized examples of companies promising and then scaling back their ambitions with regards to laying down physical wires in remote locations. The one I always remember is Verizon infamously won this big contract to bring broadband to rural Vermont. And
Yeah.
then they got up there and they were like, ugh, like,
Yeah.
this is never going to pay for itself. What are we doing?
Well, they
And
kind of did the
I
same in New
think
York. They were supposed to do it
I'm
in New
sure they've
York.
done it everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a problem. So yes, it is. The not that wireless is uh, effortless. I mean, people who live in rural areas never stop telling me how terrible their access is every time I talk about the dream of 5G. But um, it is still less expensive and easier to get wireless out to those places than it is to get wires. It's always that last mile thing is always a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So, by the way, people are like 30 years old. What kind of cables? If you here in New York, are a
Right.
lot of the homes here have old cable lines going in the homes, and
Oh, sure.
yeah. But here's the great thing, right? You got fine. They could run a new cable to the house, but what's being wired in the house?
Yeah, my house,
Some of
like
these.
we've talked about this, my house is riddled with coaxial cable from the 80s.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's about 30 something years old. So.
yeah, it is.
We're not talking, we're talking not too long ago, but it is a long time ago. So for them to go wireless, but they're gonna have to kind of specify. Okay, listen, guys, we're not gonna throttle you. We're not, we're in a very different bubble now because of media consumption compared to 4G. The launch of 4G,
Well,
a lot of media,
yeah,
streaming media was not as much of a thing as it is now. Everybody's home.
a lot of things happened, and I think the people who are 5G doubters are correctly in many ways remembering what happened with 4G, which is that it never happened for them. When they're saying, well, why is this going to be any different? During this time frame, a lot of the carriers got rid of and then sort of brought back unlimited plans. Remember, that was one of the big problems. It was almost like, we're going to bump up the speeds. You can be able to do everything you want online. And then they were like, oh God, these people are saturating our network. Like, we're going to have to scale back on this usage. And it's been this kind of roller coaster problem for the past, I don't know, 10 years. I mean, whatever you want to call that. But it's infrastructure now. I mean, this is necessary. I mean, I've kind of made the argument before that access to the internet, which equates to access to information, which is your right as a voter to be educated on the issues so you can make the right decisions during whatever election, national, local, whatever it is. I mean, it's become almost it's not literally or legally, but it should be your right as a citizen to have this access.
Yeah.
No one, a lot of places don't have libraries. And even if they do, it's a 1966 edition of encyclopedia, whatever, from back in the day. I think this stuff is critical. So will it happen? So, I mean, it will happen, but it will take a while for sure.
Yeah. I mean, things are moving quick. So I'm curious to see how they do this. And obviously, like I said, it really comes down to latency. It comes down to connectivity. It comes down to overall range. There's so many variables rather than just speed. A lot of people just concentrate on the speed aspect of this, and they kind of forget. Well, do you know what you get where you are, Paul, with 4G?
No, so in my house, like literally right here, I don't know. I don't know what the speed is. I guess I could test it if you want me to. But what I do know is I have a couple of always connected PCs, and so with the Verizon SIM, I get a line. It works great. It's fantastic. One of them has an AT&T SIM, and in my house, I can't use it. It literally has no connectivity at all.
But Verizon does.
But that's just right here. That's the weirdness. Like in my old house, remember in Dedham, I was in kind of a weird dead spot at the bottom of the hill. Not that the hill had anything to do with it, just where we happen to live. I mean, I'll check. I'll see what this foolish thing says. But
I'm curious what you're getting, because you're
Yeah.
not in a major
What do you want me
city.
to use to test this? No, I'm not.
Speed. I guess speedtest.net.
How is this not coming up? Okay,
Because I'm getting, I get around 120 megabits on average.
Yeah.
And the upload is like 70, which is unbelievable. I mean, I've done 1080 streams from
I've been
remote
traveling
locations
in Europe, and I found out in the world on my phone that the connectivity was way better than the Wi-Fi, and that's always very interesting. It really does vary where you are.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to install the app
No,
apparently
no,
for
you
this
go ahead.
thing.
While you're doing that, I do want to take a moment and talk about our sponsor, and that's here we go. Text Expander, guys. I've been talking about Text Expander for a while, and I use it every day. This is amazing stuff, and it's made by the guys at Smile Software. It's an awesome service, and I'll tell you how I use it. So what you could do, Text Expander multiplies your team's productivity, making up-to-date shared knowledge available instantly. One example is what I do. I've created hotkeys. So every time I tweet out that we're doing the show, I just put in WTT and it fills in all the blanks for me. So I don't have to constantly do it. This is available on Mac OS, iOS, Windows, and on the web. You could update immediately wherever and modified however you want. It really is a life-changing service for your business or personal use. Like I get a lot of contacts at my previous job, and I would constantly get depending on what they're from media, they're from whatever. I would have a hotkey and it would put in the information that way, so I wouldn't have to constantly put in the same information. This is a great piece of software, and you should check it out. Go to textexpander.com/podcast for 20% off your first year. That's textexpander.com/podcast, and you get 20% off your first year of service. These are great guys and a great service, and I've been talking about it for a while. It's made my emails, my productivity when it comes to emails, everything is programmed now. And I'm literally just putting in short keys, hotkeys, and I'm filling in everything, which is great. The textspender.com/podcast. Yeah. Did you, so what are you at, Paul? Anything?
Yeah. So this is on T-Mobile. The phone I'm using right now with Project Google Fi is a non-Google phone, so it can only connect to T-Mobile, right? So I don't know if it could be better. Maybe, I don't know. But it's 30 down and 12 up.
30 down and 12 up. I mean, it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not bad.
But now I'm going to test it. Let me see. I think this is the Verizon one. Let me just make sure. Oh, that's not charging it. Hold, please.
It's okay. You go ahead. Because I'm going to run it right. I'm going to run one right now.
But now I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm going to run it also. So let me get off my network here and go to speed test. And I'll do it in my house, which I don't have a lot of good service in this room. It's like a dead spot. So let's find out. My ping is miserable, actually. So I'm in the worst spot that I could do this. And my ping was 99 milliseconds, which is not good.
Your ping was 99.
Yeah, which is not good. But my download was 29, and my upload is 18. And this is in a really bad spot of the house.
Yeah. So
if I walked outside, it would probably be 3 times as much.
Okay. Yeah. So this PC has a Verizon SIM in it.
Okay.
I'm just going to run the test. All right. I know with the AT&T device, it just zero. It literally says you have nothing, but I've used it out in the world. Like, it works. It just doesn't work here. And of course, why am I doing this on here?
And of course, it's not going to work. Real world testing.
This is a Qualcomm device. I'm trying to run Chrome like an idiot. That will probably
kill it.
Impact things. Yeah. So what is this? And you said speed test.
Speedtest.net.
Yeah. All right. I assume this will just run from the browser. Yep. Yeah. So it says Verizon. Yep.
What's the latency?
What's the latency? How do I know that?
The ping.
Yeah. It's just running. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. While you do that, so I do want to ask you, how fast do you think this is going to be deployed? Do you think this is going to be a slow deployment of 5G, or do you think because how the mobile phone manufacturers are kind of speeding up, I think Samsung will be the first one on Verizon's network with 5G, right. And that'll probably start off the cascade of other OEMs starting to do this. Do you think it'll be a quick adoption rate, or do you think this is going to be slow?
I think it's going to be quick in those areas that today have LTE. I think that's how it's going to go.
Interesting.
So this is interesting. This is very different. It's 60 down, which is twice as fast as the T-Mobile connection. It's only 9 up, which is less fast than the 12 up I got on T-Mobile.
Interesting.
And the ping is double what it was on T-Mobile. It's 30 milliseconds versus 15, which is worse,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
You want a
You
lower
you
ping.
want it low. You want it very low.
Yeah, but as far as like using a laptop and you're browsing the web and doing email and
It's
whatever, I
enough. It's
mean,
good.
yeah, it's fine. I
Yeah.
don't use it this way. I mean, obviously when I'm home, I'll just use Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
but
I mean, but
I like having the capability.
of being able to do it.
Yeah.
Here's something I want to talk to you about before you start running out of time. The new Pixel 3 Lite. Information has
Yeah.
leaked regarding this.
Right.
And you wrote an article on Thurrott.com about this, and you went with, you go into detail. This is a cheaper version of the Pixel 3.
Yeah, so it's a plastic body. It looks like it's identical form factor. Um, I assume plastic will be fine for wireless charging, so it would probably support that, but I'm not sure about that. Same size battery, same screen, same camera on the back, which is the big deal. It has a mid-level processor. I think it's a Snapdragon 670, 4 gigs of
670,
RAM,
yeah.
32 gigs of storage, which is going to be a sticking point for a lot of people. It's designed to be less expensive. It's supposedly shipping right after Google I/O, which is probably in May.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not imminent or anything like that, but it is something they're going to ship mid-year. I mean, like Apple, Google obviously needs to have lower price phones, and I would like to see them lower the price on their existing phones. But this is interesting to me. I mean, plastic doesn't bother me. The camera quality is excellent, so that's of interest. It's the smaller phone; it doesn't have a notch. Expandable storage would have made a big difference there, frankly.
The camera's what, 12 mega? It's not the same camera in the other one, right?
No, it is. Same
It
camera.
is same as that camera.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So, what do we have a price idea?
No, not yet. I mean,
It is wild how expensive they've gotten these phones. I mean, really,
yeah.
The rumor is that Samsung's higher end S10X, which will be their 5G version, that is looking anywhere between $1,400 and $1,600.
What? I'm sorry, but
yeah.
no.
What is going on here? $1,400.
I thought.
Listen, by the way, yeah, the scam here is that it's a monthly payment, so you're only paying $45 or $50 a month, so you don't realize what you're spending. But that is obscene at this point. We're at the $2,000 price range at this point. We're getting there.
I mean, if this past year has proven anything, the $1,000 price point is the ceiling. You can't even, and that is diminishing returns. I don't know. I can't. Google did it right for a few years there, and they've had phones like the Nexus 5, the 5X, the 6P that were just hundreds of dollars less than the Apple or Samsung equivalents, and they were better phones.
Yeah,
and it was just such a great place for them to be. They're really, despite the fact that they make the platform, they're like Microsoft, right? With Surface, right? They're really just a boutique maker of devices. They're not mainstream in the slightest. They only sell a couple of million of these things a year. Apple sells that many in a couple of weeks.
They don't really have they don't even put a lot of marketing behind it. That's the thing.
No, they don't have a lot of carrier support. There's a couple. Verizon I think sells them, and I don't know, probably one other carrier, but yeah, it's just not. They're just not a good name. And
it's
for that
wild,
reason,
though.
I mean, what's that?
It's wild that they're they're in the $1,000 range. Apple obviously is. Samsung is.
This shouldn't be. It's a mistake.
So with Apple, the iPhone XR information, I don't think we spoke about this last week, but with the sales numbers for the iPhone, do you think they've plateaued at this point? Do you think Apple is, as far as market share and growth and pricing, they've
market share has been going down. I mean, that's nothing new. But as far as like the sales, peak iPhone was a couple of years ago. I mean, it's going down. That's why they're not reporting numbers anymore, because they would look terrible. And it could literally be a 10 to 20% drop this year. I mean, so we'll see. But that, it's not just Apple. I mean, I know every time you criticize Apple, you have to remind everyone it's not just Apple, but Apple they sell the best selling smartphone model by far. They make the most profits by far. In the United States, they have a huge market share still compared to, say, the rest of the world. And, they are kind of a bellwether for the industry. I mean, when Apple's having problems, Apple is a company that has, refuted trends, right? When everyone else is having problems, they're like, great, we're making all kinds of profits. It's great. Everyone upgrades immediately. People are buying our services and our accessories. Everything's great. When they have problems, there's a problem.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there's a
And they're
problem.
having a lot of them
That's
because people are not buying
yeah.
the phones. They're not going out in
Well, they
flocks.
got complacent, right? Apple switched when the first iPhone came out. It was like this innovative explosion that just took everyone by surprise, and they've been milking it, and it's understandable. Everyone does this, but you get complacent. You have very happy users. Remember, we talk about this all the time. This is a company where people bring the reason there are people in the stores is because everyone's getting an iPhone fixed, and then they get the highest customer service ratings
Hmm.
because you have a place where you can go to get your iPhone fixed, right?
Yeah.
It's that level of reliability would earn other companies like a C or a D score, but because they have these stores and people, they get this happy vibe, right? Whatever it is, they have a very happy user base. They got really complacent, and it's finally kind of coming home. I mean, I think that time is over, and
Do,
we
do you think
found they can't.
do
Go
you
ahead.
think their
Sorry.
complacency has gone is within design, overall design, aesthetics? Where do you think their biggest problem as far as becoming complacent is?
It the balance here is kind of hard to. I don't have the answer. Like in other words, I can't say this is what they should do, right? I want to be clear. I'm just a critic. I'm not. I don't have answers, But I think even Apple's best fans would sort of acknowledge the disappointment of the S year releases, where it's exactly the same design and it just has a processor bump, and they've stopped improving the camera. Basically, that's kind of weird, you know. And now they've moved to the point where like there's a third S year, like a second S year,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like we're milking the designs longer and longer. And they're also, Apple has been both praised and criticized for making what I think of as extreme decisions, but they would call kind of bold or courageous decisions. Some of which are finally starting to come back and backfire on them, like Face ID, the notch, the lack of a headphone jack, which everyone's copying, which is terrible. Um, at some point you have to just say, guys, what do you want? Like we are no longer surprising you and delighting you. We're just surprising you and annoying you. So
Well, I think
how can
it's
we
not
fix
necessarily
this?
Apple, right? And not
It's
to
not just
defend
Apple.
Apple, not to defend Apple, but
Yeah.
and not to criticize them at the same time. I think this complacency is across the board, and I don't think it's because of Samsung's doings or Apple's doing. I think it has to do with just
Yeah, but
the evolution of this device. How
no,
much
you're right.
thinner and faster and smaller and sleeker can the
Yeah,
phone get?
but Andrew, the problem with Apple is Apple comes out with every S release and touts it as this is the best iPhone. They're so hyperbolic in all of their marketing. All of their messaging is like this is going to change everything.
Hey,
This
Paul,
is like getting a new iPhone in your iPhone.
you bought
You
the
know?
one previous to this. You're a piece of
Yeah,
crap. That
that thing was a piece of
sucks.
shit, and
Yeah.
whoever bought that is a freaking idiot. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. So the difference is
Yeah.
complacent is one thing. I mean, complacent suggests they could go faster and aren't. And Apple is absolutely that. This is the company that has adopted everything late. 4G, wireless charging, whatever. They're probably going to go to USB-C. Oh, surprise. The rest of the planet's been on USB-C for 5 years.
Mhm.
The difference between them and their competition is that the CEO from Samsung, I think I've told this story before, got up at the Note 8 launch. Imagine doing this at a product launch and said, I'm kind of embarrassed. It's hard to really improve these things anymore.
Yeah.
It's hard every year coming up with new exciting ideas. That's a company that's not complacent. That's a company that's running into that wall that you're talking about. They were on board with all of these trends early on: curved displays, phablet form factors, USB-C, stereo
Yeah.
speakers. Go down the whole list, wireless charging, whatever it is. They adopted that stuff fast.
Face ID. Yeah.
So yes, there is an industry-wide problem, but Apple actually still has a different problem from the rest of the industry too, and it's tied into the whole company hubris and the hyperbole and all of their nonsense, and the fact that they have been pulling the rug over people's eyes for so long with their very complacent user base that they were caught by surprise. by the fact that they couldn't pull the same bullshit and get away with it.
Yeah.
And that's a very specific Apple problem.
Well, they're service business now, Paul. They're into the services business, and they kind of have to be. I understand
Good
that.
for them. Well,
Yeah,
their services are 1/10 the size of that
of their
iPhone
hardware.
business. So good luck with that.
But but here's the other thing, right? I'm in
Yeah.
technology. I covered tech. You covered tech.
Mhm.
I have a Samsung, and I always do this. I have an iPhone and I have a Samsung,
Yep.
and those are my daily phones, and I use both of them every single day. I'm on
Yep.
an iPhone 7.
Yeah.
I'm not upgrading. I haven't upgraded to the
Right.
10. I haven't thought about upgrading to the 10 because this works really well for me. And it
Yeah.
works
I mean,
really well
yeah.
for most people. It's not slow, it's not sluggish. I don't feel any kind of slowdown to it. I think we're at a point where the technology is just not moving fast enough to evolve with. And it just it's not
Well.
just Apple, right? And Samsung
So
has this too, and Google has this. It goes down to the chipset. It goes down to how fast. It goes down to storage.
yeah.
How much? There's a lot of moving parts here. So yeah, has Apple gotten complacent? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
100% they have. But
Yeah.
I don't know what the next big boom is and who it's going to be.
Well, when you say who it's going to be, you mean which company it's going to
Which
be?
company it's going to have the
Oh,
next
I know that. I
big?
have the answer to that. It's going to be a company from China. It's going to
Yeah,
be 3 companies from China. And these companies are kind of raw and energetic and are racing and receiving the market share that they deserve for their efforts, right? And so uh, Huawei primarily, right, overtook Apple last year to become the world's number 2 supplier of smartphones, despite the fact that they can't sell them in the United States, basically. Um, and this is very interesting because this is one way that Apple got complacent. When you look at the largest market in the world, in China, Apple has done almost nothing to localize the software itself, as well as the services they offer for that market. But the companies from China obviously do that while racing ahead of
yeah,
the hardware specs, the camera capabilities, the AI prowess, whatever you want to point to, is all better than what Apple offers. It's localized to China, so it works with the stuff that those people expect. Oh, and it's a lot less expensive, by the way. In a
yeah.
year in which Apple raised prices by 20%, the delta between those devices and Apple just got bigger.
It also what so last week we spoke about this about the Chinese market, and I got a
Yeah.
great email from my friend that lives there.
Okay.
He moved there for work. He's in technology, and he said, and he agreed with us, but he brought up a great point. He goes, Apple was eyeing not the upper class in China, in Beijing,
Yeah.
or anywhere in China or in Asia. They were eyeing the middle class because the growth of the middle class has been booming.
Right.
But what they
Right.
don't understand is that the middle class in China is a very different middle class than in America. Their middle
Yeah.
class does not spend like we do. They don't.
Well, they
The
don't have the money that
importance.
we do. I
They don't
mean,
have the money.
you know,
It's not the same
yeah,
middle class. Yeah, but even
right. You
even if
can't
we were
sell a phone for
comparing
the same price there.
a thousand
Buying an
dollar
iPhone in
phone,
China is like me buying a used car, you know?
sure. But let's look at even if we compare a middle class that's semi comparable,
Mhm.
the way they spend money and their thought process for things like this is very different than ours because our middle class has grown over decades. Theirs has
Right.
been hundreds
Yeah,
of
it's
years. You know,
explosive. Yeah, yeah, they're
they haven't
nouveau
changed
middle
culturally
class.
along with
Right.
their middle class and the money. So he goes, yeah, Apple comes in here and prices $1,000 phone. People look at that, and even though you're making money and you're the new middle class of China and you're living in the big city, you're gonna look at this and say, this is nuts. Why would I spend that money? That is the
Right.
problem that they're having. And I think a lot of these manufacturers, you know, I'm curious to see what the Samsung S10 is selling for in China. Are they buying that phone? If we compare it to Apple, you know, it's easy to compare Samsung and Apple, but if we compared their 2 flagship phones, what's the sales on
Yeah.
the S10 in China? I guarantee you, S9, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, it's probably not doing as
No,
better than the iPhone.
Samsung's having the same problem in China, that for sure. The problems that Apple has talked about in China are not unique to Apple. Although, like I said, you know, the price is a problem. Samsung's phones are less expensive than Apple's, by the way, and that's true in China as well. I don't know what Samsung does to localize their phones for different markets, so it's possible they have a better or the same kind of level of localization in China. I actually don't know that. Um, but I do know the sales figures, and I know that Samsung has talked about issues selling phones and has warned in the past and in the present as well about falling sales of these flagship phones. And so everyone's losing out in China. China is such a big market. And it's not just China. I mean, a lot of Chinese companies sell their products in Western Europe and elsewhere that not the United States, but it's such a big market that it helps them overcome not being able to sell their products in the United States. I mean, you know, if Apple loses China, they're going to fall into the toilet. If Huawei doesn't sell in the United States, it's not a problem.
It doesn't matter.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of amazing. It's a big market.
They're running emerging market. I mean, they're really booming in emerging markets.
Yeah.
For them, and those are the numbers that people see. Huawei's killing it. They have that what was it? The 20 Pro, the Huawei Mate 20.
Yeah, Mate 20 Pro. Yep.
By the way, not a cheap phone.
No.
Not an inexpensive phone, but compared to $1,100.
Yeah.
It's a wild market we're in, and I think people are starting to realize that spending $1,000 every year on a phone is not a smart decision.
You'd have to be independently wealthy to even consider such a lifestyle. Or insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I think we are starting to get a little bit smarter as far as Western culture, North America especially. We're starting to get a little bit smarter when we see, well, we're not really paying $1,400 up front. We're paying $40 a month, and that doesn't really. What does that mean? A couple less drinks, one night of not ordering food. I think that mentality is kind of going away, and we're like, wait a minute, do I need to get a new iPhone every single year? And what's the difference? What's the difference here?
There's not that this is I don't think this is a societal wide trend, but there is a movement out there, related movements around such things. I think these things is all being tied to each other. It's like the Marie Kondo kind of decluttering stuff, the minimalism stuff,
Yeah.
the FIRE movement, which is the financial independence, retire early stuff. There's a growing group of typically younger people, but this benefits people my age and older as well, who are kind of reevaluating their priorities, right? And that it's happening at a time when we're starting to fear Facebook. We're worried about all the screen time we're spending on devices. People are turning to like analog things, like actual board games where you are in a room with people and you're not doing something digitally or staring at a screen or whatever. Look, we're not stopping the forward motion of technology and all and progress, obviously, but I think it has been a very healthy reevaluation of all of our priorities, right?
Sure.
And you're right, buying a new iPhone, that seemed like kind of cool a couple of years ago for some people. I don't know. But I think a lot of people now are like, geez, there's a lot I could do with that $1,000. If I, that's a trip to Europe,
somebody just messaged me, and I think this is a good point. It goes, the mobile market has matured to the point that it's comparable to how the PC market is. Software's gotten a lot smarter. Software's gotten a lot smarter. Software manufacturers are constantly updating and trying to be as efficient as before as they possibly can be. And I think we're kind of at that point where leaner and faster on the software side is impacting the sales of the hardware.
Yeah. Of course, the smartphone took a lot less time to get to that point than the PC market did, right? We took decades for PCs to reach this point where people are upgrading them not at all, like every 7 or 8 years, a long time.
Yeah.
That happened, not at 7 or 8 years in the smartphone market, but the smartphone market has essentially achieved that same level of maturation in less than a decade.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting.
This is a good conversation to have, and we'll wrap it up there. Can you do the post show today, or do you have to run?
I have a meeting, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Paul has a meeting, so I'm going to talk about my trip to Ireland coming up on the post show. Guys, go to our website, gfknetwork.com. You can fund us on Patreon, patreon.com/Mattmen. Wow, wrong show. Patreon.com/WhatTheTech. You can fund us there. As little as $1 per bonus show gets us far along. Look, Paul's sick. Help him out. Help this boy out.
Well, I don't know if I'm sick. I'm just
for $50 bucks.
Weary.
He'll throw up for you on the air.
Yeah, right.
He'll do it for $50, guys.
How desperate do I have to be?
Yeah.
We'll throw up for money.
You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. You can follow Paul at The Rod. And of course, Paul's amazing website, therod.com. A lot of the news and a lot of the notes that we use on the show comes from Paul's website, therot.com, which is one of the first websites I go to every single day. It's that and it's wrestling. That's my day. That's what my days consist of. That and wrestling. Guys, that's it for this week. If you're watching this live, stay tuned. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to talk about my trip to Ireland and all my stuff going through my head. If not, go to patreon.com/Matt. Wow, I keep doing it. Patreon.com/WhatTheTech and fund this there to get access to that. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
So when do you leave? Friday?
Yeah.
Friday night.
Yeah, I leave on Friday night. I think at 6 o'clock I leave.
You'll have a good time, man.
I'm telling you right now, I'm not feeling good about this trip.
I know.
I don't know why.
I am going to Barcelona at the end of February, by the way.
Oh, you are? Nice.
For the Microsoft thing at Mobile World Congress.
For the HoloLens stuff?
That's probably going to be HoloLens, yeah.
Anything so this is what I'm doing, and you tell me if this is crazy. I'm getting to Dublin, right? I get into Dublin 5 a.m. before you go. Then I'm driving up to Monaghan, which I was lied to. I was told it's 45 minutes. It's an hour and a half drive. Going to Monaghan.
Is someone getting you?
Yeah, someone's getting me.
Because it is crucial that you not be the person to drive.
No. I'm not driving. Somebody else is getting me. It's a point that I made. They're picking me up. They're taking me to Monaghan. It's an hour and a half. I'm staying in Monaghan for a little bit. Then at night, I'm coming back to Dublin, then going back up to Monaghan. I'm going to be driving for 6 hours.
What?
Hour and a half, hour and a half, hour and a half, hour and a half.
Why are you doing that?
Does that make any sense? What I'm saying is we should get to Dublin.
Why are you doing it?
Because my friend lives in Monaghan, and we were staying in his town. We're staying in Monaghan.
Yeah. No, I know, but why are you going back and forth?
Because we want to spend the day in Dublin, and it's too early when we get in.
Oh shit! I'm getting that work call.
Okay, you go.
I gotta go.
All right,
sorry.
All right, so I'm gonna talk to these guys while we're doing this. So none of this makes sense to me. I have to figure out a better plan, and I don't know. I don't feel like doing this trip. And generally, I cancel if I don't feel like doing a trip like this. It just eats at me, and I end up canceling. And now I'm in the position where I cannot cancel because it's tomorrow. So I kind of want to wait out of this. I'm very stressed over the whole thing, which is it's not helping me with this. I feel like it's at the wrong time too. By the way, hey everybody, this is the bonus show. We started doing it. I wanted to get Paul on for like 3 seconds before you took off. And I just hit record on it. So there was no good introduction here, but I've been on the air since 10 o'clock today. So, and I have another show I'm going to do after this. I'm doing a test show right after this, which I'm going to do with the skinny pig, Dara Pollock. She's a food blogger, one of my good friends. So we're going to talk about, we're doing like a lifestyle thing. We're testing it out, which we're going to start in about 30 minutes. So I'm going to Ireland, and I don't feel good about the trip. I just feel like I don't want to do it for a number. I mean, I'm obviously stressed out over work stuff, but I don't know. I think none of it makes sense. So anybody got input on this? 'Cause I'd like to know what you think. Am I just losing my mind, or should I be genuinely stressed over this because it's so tight in time? So this is the theory. I get to Dublin at 5 a.m. I drive up to Monaghan. I stay in Monaghan. Why did you not book a hotel to stay in Dublin, then go up to Monaghan the next day? Yeah, Greg, that makes the most sense. I don't know why. Because I was told it's 45 minutes. And I was like, 45 minutes, not bad. I could go, but an hour and a half is not the same as 45 minutes. And being on a 7-hour flight, plus another hour and a half to get there, then another hour and a half to come back, then another hour and a half to go back, it gets too nutty. No, I'm not doing the driving, guys. I'm not doing the driving. I'm not going to drive back and forth like that in Ireland. A friend of mine, he moved there a couple of years ago, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So he's picking us up and driving us around. And then when I'm in Monaghan, I'm going up to Belfast. I'm going to go to Northern Ireland, which that'll be fun. That's a trip I could do because it makes sense. And then I'm leaving on Tuesday. or I get back to New York Tuesday at 1 o'clock, so I don't know what time my flight would be in Ireland because it's a 8-hour flight, 8 hours plus 5. So I would be going backwards, no, forward. So it would be a later flight. It'd be like an afternoon flight. So it's all whacked. I know there are a lot of people, a lot of our viewers are from Ireland. So if you have any tips on to make this better for me. And by the way, I don't want to go to Ireland. I just don't think this back and forth makes sense to anybody. That's where I'm at right now with this. That's the bizarreness of this is the constant back and forth. But I think what I'll do is I'll do some updates while I'm there, and I may have to record something while I'm up there because I get back on Tuesday at 1:30, so we won't be able to do the show on Tuesday. I'll have to do it on Thursday, but I do want to kind of do like a little video quick on my trip up there. While I'm doing this, I'm going to remind you guys, I'm going to do, if you're watching live, I'm going to be doing a bonus thing here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to go live on Twitch. I'm not going to be streaming on the What the Tech page or the Guys from Queens page. When you land, you get a free U2 album. That is true. That's 100% true. Who's paying for this trip? I am. I'm paying for the trip. It's not a work thing. Dude, aren't you overthinking a lot? I that is what I do. When things don't make sense, I tend to overthink things. Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Double J. So we'll figure it out. We'll see what's going on. Next week, I do want to do a bonus with Paul, so I'm going to take some time with him, and I think we'll record earlier and do the bonus content. Today, things got wacky because he had to go to the doctor on Tuesday, so we had to move stuff around. Spend the 90 minutes in the car trying to learn the accent. Listen, I'm from Bayside. It's a very Irish town. Angel must be off the psych meds. I have relatives outside of Belfast, never been over in Ireland. You'll enjoy the trip in the end. No, listen, I'm going to have fun. I'm just having fun with this. It'll be a fun trip. And it's not that bad. It's I get in Saturday morning, Sunday I'm there, Monday I'm there, and Tuesday I'm back. It's a quick one. It's a very quick trip. Stay the first night in Monaghan. Temple Bar is roaring every night of the week. Temple Bar is where? In Monaghan? I think that's probably where I'm going to go. Monaghan. Oh, that's in Dublin. Temple Bar. Let me see. Temple Bar Pub since 1840. This is no, this isn't the oldest one, right? The oldest one, somebody told me, it's like 11 something in Dublin. I definitely want to go to Temple Bar. See the first time. I'm gonna sleep in the car on the way there. Your wife is going with? Yeah, she's coming. The kids are here, and then we're going. So it'll be an easy trip. The party area of Dublin. Yeah, I'm gonna tweet out when I'm there, when I'm at a bar. I'm sure we have so many fans, listeners in Ireland, where I'm sure I'm gonna run into somebody. I already got a bunch of messages saying like, "Oh, when are you in Dublin?" So to meet up. Why did you agree to go on this trip if you're self-conflicted? I'm gonna tell you what I did. I got drunk on New Year's like an idiot, and I agreed to do it. And then the next day, when I had a chance to back out, I said, "Sure, let's do it." And I also wasn't as busy with work. Things hadn't gotten really busy here. I didn't, and then all of a sudden, mid-January comes and things start getting busy. So it changed. They're very near to each other. Oh, Bride's Head is the oldest. Temple Bar is in the neighborhood. Cool. Awesome. All right, guys. I'm gonna run. I'll see you all in a little bit. If you want to watch, go to gfqlive.tv and you can watch over there. Appreciate all the input. See you guys later.